This is a WKYT podcast.
Good morning from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant, and we welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers and hope you're enjoying your weekend. Later, the new chairman of the Kentucky Democratic Party, Colmon Elridge, will be joining us to talk about the challenges that he faces in trying to rebuild the state party. It was a tough November election. It left Democrats diminished even further in Frankfort. Chairman Elridge will be with us a little bit later. But first, Lexington is normally a tourism and convention destination with all of its natural beauty, history, horses, bourbon, and basketball. But the pandemic has shut down, postponed, and changed events in a way that has been very costly to the hospitality industry. The local Convention and Visitors Bureau is known as VisitLEX. They're now urging folks to show as much local support as they can as we try to power through and wait for the COVID-19 crisis to turn around. Mary Quinn Raymer is president of VisitLEX, and she is joining us here on Kentucky Newsmakers. Thanks for being with us. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Bill.
You know, Lexington is normally such an easy sale. Obviously, it's a beautiful, historic, and lively place. How would you describe what this pandemic has done to disrupt things?
I'd say this pandemic has done everything to disrupt the hospitality industry here in Lexington. And of late, I have been saying to people who've asked, we have been devastated as an industry. However, we are not defeated. So in the face of some pretty looming and daunting challenges, we continue to be resilient. And I expect that we will get to the other side of this, and we will be able to get back to doing what we do best, which is roll out gracious hospitality to people from around the world.
Is there an estimate, Mary, of how much the canceled conventions, the concerts, the tournaments, the other events that have not happened have hurt the economy? What is the toll?
It is a staggering statistic, as you might imagine. We ran a report just recently, and since the middle of March, when we officially, began the pandemic and quarantining here in Kentucky, we have lost approximately $105 million in hotel room revenue. We've had 215 meetings and conventions cancel for this year. That also includes some events, and that means we've been about 90,000 less in hotel room nights than typical. So when you add all that up together, you get 105 million. It's a staggering statistic. And as I mentioned, we are not really anticipating the next few months to be much better, simply because it's winter and people are, rightfully so nervous about traveling and getting together in groups until the vaccine is widely distributed. So,
by its nature, tourism counts on visitors, but there are some things that the locals can do. Lexington was home to a thriving restaurant scene before the pandemic. Some of that came back during the time that the restrictions were lifted, and now we're back in this situation again. Of course, everybody hoping all that returns, but how much difference can local folks make if they will do what they can to support the local eateries and some of our venues in the weeks and months ahead?
So I think that it's going to be absolutely essential for the local community to step up and support and love these local restaurants and bars and retail shops and hotels, attractions, experiences, anything and everything that falls under that hospitality industry. We are going to need the local support to get us through these winter months. As I mentioned, it's going to be a bleak winter just simply because of how this virus works and what that does to people's travel sentiment. And so we need the locals to buy gift cards. We need locals to obviously do takeout or pickup, delivery from our local restaurants and bars. I think it's a great place to have a staycation. So we don't oftentimes think about being a resident of Lexington and staying in one of our hotels, but it can be a fun little getaway for the weekend. I also think that people can buy experiences. Even if you're not redeeming those gift cards right now, you can have them for the future. And that could be the absolute difference in a local business being able to survive these winter months. So really and truly, I just implore locals to get out there and support all these wonderful signature restaurants, businesses, hotels, attractions that we love and help us through.
And I know VisitLEX compiled a guide for social media, and you've issued a challenge to local folks to help the restaurants weather the storm. And one of the things you said was order, carry out, and take pictures of their meals, and a lot of folks have responded to that.
We've had tremendous response. Actually, just last night we launched a TikTok video with a very beloved celebrity around town, Rex Chapman, and it's gotten tremendous coverage. And we are hoping that people will share, that folks will find inspiration in a place that maybe they have never been to or haven't been to in a long time, and that they'll choose to do some takeout or delivery in these next few weeks from some of those spots. So we know that we've got all kinds of data that says that the social sharing really does drive engagement and actually makes cash registers ring at these places of business. So we hope that folks will have fun with it and will embrace it and use it to help support our local institutions.
Let's try to look ahead. So many conventions and annual events were canceled for this year, as you said, over 200. Keeneland, of course, ran without fans. And as you look to 2021, where is the discussion about possibly having some of those events that didn't happen this year? Are people still hesitant to schedule, or are you getting some interest?
I think that we are getting interest, no doubt. I would say that there is great trepidation about the first quarter and even the second quarter of 2021. So for us, we are really trying to focus our efforts on the second half of 2021. As you know, and if you've driven in downtown Lexington lately, you've seen the construction on our convention center. That is actually due to open at the beginning of 2022, completely finished, which will just be a fantastic asset for us. And so I think the timing on the opening of this brand new convention center is going to be ideal, actually. And we are just really looking future forward with our convention bookings and trying to make sure that when that new facility is online, we've got people in there and our hospitality is back in action in full force.
As you talk to people in the hospitality industry, whether it's restaurants or hotels or venues or whatever, how many talk about being hopeful that there is some kind of government assistance approved in Washington that trickles down and helps them?
There is widespread sentiment throughout the industry here in Lexington and quite frankly throughout the entire state for Congress to act before the end of the year to save travel. And it's everything from our airlines to our hotels to our restaurants, our attractions. There is a great need for additional relief, specifically the expansion of the PPP program and expanded eligibility for that program, and additional emergency assistance to airports. Our hotels need some assistance with some debt restructuring. And there is just a sincere hope that Congress will be able to get past this stalemate and make some progress toward an additional relief package. It really is the difference between life and death for some of these small businesses.
As people do contact and talk about maybe they'd like to get started, I mean, what are the questions they have right now about Lexington's ability to, be itself once everything starts to go again? And of course, we're probably talking once the vaccines are widely distributed and things start to calm down with the pandemic. Do people feel that, the city can spring right back quickly?
We do, and we've seen this. We've never dealt with anything quite like this, but in 2001, after the attacks of 9/11, and in 2008 with the financial crisis, Lexington was extremely resilient and was able to jump back pretty quickly, and we are expecting that to be the same for our hospitality industry. So I do think there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we remain hopeful about life on the other side of this pandemic. We just have to stay focused on the task at hand, which is getting through these winter months.
In the meantime, you talk about, and you sort of made reference to it earlier, these small batch travel visits where folks go and discover things that are right around them that they might not know about, and just have that unique experience.
Absolutely. It's been fun, actually. There have been some blessings in this whole experience, and my family and I have enjoyed doing some things right here in the Bluegrass region that I hadn't been to in a long time or actually had never done before. And we are typically, talking to people from the VisitLEX perspective outside of the state. So we've refocused our attention and our efforts here during this pandemic to be a more local message and to encourage Kentuckians to get out there and see this state. You might have come across the state's tourism office campaign, which was Stay Close, Go Far. And so I think there's all kinds of fantastic experiences that await us right here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And during these next few months, I think it'll be just incredibly important to get out there and do the things that are nearby to us and offer support to these businesses.
Mary Quinn Raymer, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We appreciate your optimism, and hopefully things do change soon and pick up in joining us today from VisitLEX. We really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Stay with us now in Kentucky Newsmakers. We're coming right back with a new chairman of the Kentucky Democratic Party. Colmon Elridge talks about his challenges. He'll be with us next. Welcome back to Kentucky Newsmakers. Our next guest obviously relishes a challenge. Colmon Elridge has taken over as the chairman of the Kentucky Democratic Party after a very tough November election for the blue team. It's a low watermark for Democrats in Frankfort. And while President-elect Biden won the White House nationwide, Kentucky went solidly for Republican President Donald Trump and easily re-elected Republican Senator Mitch McConnell and Congressman Andy Barr in the Bluegrass. Elridge is a longtime Democratic Party activist. He was a special advisor to former two-term Governor Steve Beshear. And now he makes history as the first African-American to lead the Kentucky Democratic Party. Chairman Elridge is on with us. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it and welcome.
Bill, thank you so much for having me.
Well, as we said, obviously you must like a challenge. You know, here you are taking over the state party, having been selected as the chairman of the party. Do you first have to acknowledge these are very tough times for Kentucky Democrats?
Oh, absolutely, Bill. I in coming into this role, said, look, we're in the wilderness right now. We can't run away from not only the election results this November, but the past probably 10 years worth of cycles. We've seen a steady, slow at first drip. And we've got to acknowledge that. We've got to do some deep soul searching to figure out how we got off course. And most importantly, we've got to figure out how we regain our voice, how we reconnect with voters all across the Commonwealth, whether you're in the hills of Eastern Kentucky or the inner city of North Lexington or the west end of Louisville or the western end of the state. We've got to reclaim and reconnect, and that's the challenge ahead of us, but I think we're up for it.
And that's the thing that any keen observer can see very clearly. There is very obviously an urban-rural divide here in Kentucky. President-elect Joe Biden carried Jefferson and Fayette County, the state's two most populous, but President Trump carried the other 118 counties. Josh Hicks carried only Lexington in the 6th district race against Republican Congressman Andy Barr. How do you make inroads into the non-metropolitan areas?
Well, I think, you know, I have oftentimes pushed back against the narrative of the urban-rural divide. Voting-wise, that's true. The values that we have as Kentuckians are fairly similar, whether you're in an urban area or a rural area. We care about jobs. We care about our faith. We care about the education of our children. We care about surviving this pandemic and not only surviving it, but understanding what it is doing to our communities, what it's doing to our small businesses, what it's doing to us mentally, emotionally, and physically. Those are shared values. And I think where Democrats have lost our way is that we forgot to lead with those. We treated voting as a very academic exercise instead of realizing that more often than not, people vote with their hearts. They vote for the people that they can connect with and feel that will be in the fight for them, not with them. And to the extent that we used to have that as a part and parcel of who we were as a party, we've got to regain that. And it's not going to be easy. You know, when folks can get their news sources from any number of different outlets, when we're grappling with what truth and facts are, that challenge is, I think, going to be doubly hard. But in the absence of it, we just will continue to lose footing as a party, and that's footing that we simply can't afford to lose.
But Mr. Chairman, to your point, what has happened since the days when Kentucky political leaders like Wendell Ford and Julian Carroll, Martha Lane Collins, and others were able to draw a distinction between the National Democratic Party, which might have an agenda that was seen as too liberal for Kentucky, and a brand that they all called Kentucky Democrats?
Well, you're talking about three of my heroes there, and folks that I've considered mentors, and I would actually add my former boss, Governor Steve Beshear. He was able to do that, I think, fairly masterfully, and really it came down to our ability to define for ourselves what it meant to be a Kentucky Democrat. I think, unfortunately, we've not ceded that ground to the National Democratic Party. Frankly, we've ceded that ground to the Republican Party, both here in Kentucky and nationally. They have been able to ascribe to us what our values are, what we fight for, what promotes us to engage in the policies that we believe in. And so we've got to reclaim that narrative. We have to fight back against a narrative that has painted us in ways that, frankly, there are seldom, if any, Kentucky Democrats that would fit that description. I'll give you a quick example. Almost every Democrat running for the House and Senate, and even some federal offices this past cycle, had mailers sent against them that had them with, engineered pictures with Nancy Pelosi and AOC, folks who they've never met and don't know who they are. But this mythology that somehow once you have a D behind your name, you are controlled by the National Party out of Washington is frankly the furthest from the truth. And so we're going to continue in our fight to rebuild, to reclaim our narrative and define for ourselves, as those leaders that you just named have done in the past, define for ourselves what it means to be a Kentucky Democrat. Support the National Party where we can, but obviously draw lines of distinction against them when we must.
And in fairness, the Democratic Party, the state Democrats sent out a lot of mailers that brought up former Governor Matt Bevin and tied some of those candidates to him as well. Sure. I guess really the agenda of a party is to win. So which way do you go ideologically, or are you saying that it is not the case that you have to choose a path between a progressive wing wanting you to push, say, a green agenda and emphasize the social justice issues, and a more moderate big tent party that might put emphasis on other things?
So I think, again, that's I've pushed back oftentimes about which way do we need to go. We need to go the right way. We need to go the way that the people of Kentucky, in every county, in every city, we need to go where they need us to go. And sometimes that's going to be building in parts of our policy that are from the more progressive wing of our party. And sometimes that's going to be standing with the more moderate to centrist wing of our party. When the Democratic Party has been at its best, it's been able to kind of bridge those sides of our party into a path forward that folks could see themselves as a part of. And I think this purity test that we either have to be fully to the left or fully to the right or squarely in the middle isn't necessarily where people are. I have Republican friends and family members, frankly, that would say, look, they agree with some of the far right of their party. They agree with some of the center of their party. And I think that's where Democrats are as well. And frankly, that's where voters are. And so we've got to reject the purity test and simply get to the place of advocating for policies and for candidates that are right for the people that they are asking for the privilege to serve.
If the present trajectory continues, Republicans could even take a registration advantage by, say, this time next year. Is that something that concerns you, or is that a metric you're paying attention to?
Bill, it's concerned me since I was 16. So I am, yes, it's something that I continue to be concerned about. Obviously, we've seen the numbers start to tilt towards the Republican Party. Longtime Democrats who have switched parties. I'm old enough to remember when Jim Gooch was a Democrat, and I went down and campaigned for him. And so we have to understand that that is happening. What we also have to understand is that voter registration just doesn't happen around election time. It is a 365-day-a-year endeavor, and we are going to get back to doing that as a party. And I think when we're able to do that, when we're able to reclaim the narrative, when we're able to stand firm as to who we are as a party and why our fight is for the people rather than against them, I think all of those things combined will begin to turn the tide, both in the registration advantage that Republicans currently have, but also in terms of our electoral victories and clawing back. It's not going to be an easy just flip of the light switch, but we're going to have to walk and chew gum and sometimes hop and run all at the same time. But I know we're up for it.
Mr. Chairman, Republicans will pretty much completely control redistricting after the 2020 census numbers come back. Are you concerned that they could imperil even more Democrats with the way those district lines are drawn?
Well, I think we have to assume from comments that we've heard that is their intention. What I, as the chairman of this party, will simply say is, let's put people first. Gerrymandering districts to suit the members of the majority in Frankfort does not necessarily compute with doing what's right for the people of the Commonwealth. And so now, of course, their retort is going to be, well, but you all. And look, that's fair. I'm going to say what I would say to my 11 and 9-year-old when they say, but my brother, which is two wrongs don't make a right, and getting even is God's job, not yours. So I would hope that in the spirit of doing what's right, now that they have the honor and the burden of having supermajorities in both the House and the Senate, that they will step up to the plate and in this endeavor do what's right for Kentucky, not what's right for the Republican Party of Kentucky.
This will probably have to be my final question, but mercifully for many, we have no elections in 2021, but 2022 is right around the corner, and I assume that candidate recruitment will be an important thing for you. Have you identified potential candidates for, say, the U.S. Senate and the congressional and legislative races already?
Well, I've been on the job for about 2 weeks, so I'm just now getting my arms around the infrastructure as it exists now. I stepped away for a while, so I'm getting reacclimated to being daily involved in the party. But absolutely, I think, again, like voter registration, or candidate recruitment is something that doesn't stop just because of Election Day. So we're having those conversations. We're engaging in conversations with folks that are simply interested in maybe taking that step and doing some education of what that means. I think the party has to really value not putting our thumb on the scale of any primary of any candidate, but instead giving all who are interested in running the information that can best allow them to make the best decision for how they want to serve their communities and ultimately the Commonwealth. So more to come on that, but we're rocking and rolling.
Chairman Elridge, thank you very much for being with us from the Kentucky Democratic Party. Stay with us. We'll have a special holiday story we think you'll like before we go. Before we go this morning, let's lighten up and brighten up a little here at the holidays. The Cynthiana home is one of those with over-the-top decorations everybody loves to go see. And our Amber Philpott takes us to her home county and shows us a place that's all decked out.
This normally quiet Harrison County road is busy these days. There's something that catches the eye and has drivers slowing down.
It's fun for us to watch people get excited over something that we've done.
Christopher and Stephanie Almeida are hard at work putting out Christmas decorations. Well, actually, they never really stop.
It's just something I've always enjoyed doing, and I just love watching the kids see it
But what you see in the daylight can't fully be appreciated until the switch is flipped.
It takes me about 3 to 4 weeks every year. And I've been doing this for about 7 years, and I've just grown every year.
What comes to life here on this 4.5 acres is magical. If you stand still long enough, you might just get covered in Christmas lights.
We got about 3,750 lights just on the house alone.
But it certainly doesn't stop there, with some 40-plus inflatables and even a projector playing Christmas movies on loop. This family isn't messing around.
We look forward to every year getting the house decorated, and it's just really turned into something amazing.
With a light display this big, one that even Santa couldn't miss from above, one would wonder what the Almeida's neighbors must think. Well, the O'Donnells sum it up very simply in their own display.
Ditto, we agree. That's us.
I didn't want to try to compete with our neighbor because there's no way we could do that, so.
The O'Donnells are not Grinchy, just realistic. The two families have been neighbors for years and are amazed by the attraction next door.
He always worries that, he's going to offend us, and I'm like, no, I look forward to it every year. Like every year he adds something new.
In fact, the O'Donnells learned just how much hard work goes into this crazy Christmas stuff. It took them several days and 1,200 holes later just to put out their clever sign.
I thought, oh, this is going to be easy, no problem. We could whip this out like in a day. Nope, not so much.
Next door, the O'Donnells' creativity doesn't go unnoticed.
I think the sign was just perfect.
From Frosty to the Grinch, even Santa in a helicopter, there's a lot to see at the Almeida house. The glow is like a beacon pulling you in. Trouble is, you might need to make several passes to see it all. One man's gift, albeit a bright one, to his community.
And I told him I wanted to fill this whole valley up, and I'm getting there slowly.
That's from Amber Philpott. And by the way, if you want to go, it's in Harrison County again, off Kentucky Highway 1771, also known as Munson Road. That's Kentucky Newsmakers. Make it a good week ahead.